Infinite Wealth is the longest game I've played on the channel so far, but it's got so many different minigames and side content, so while I'm editing the full video, I thought it'd be a fun idea to break out one of those side stories into its own video. Because of my total playtime, I spent 1/6 of that on Dondoko Island. Just in case you're worried, this mode is entirely separate from the main game, so there'll be no spoilers at all. Early on in chapter 6, Ichiban gets knocked out and mysteriously wakes up on Dondoko Island, and very quickly we meet the other inhabitants. Dondoko Island is very similar to Animal Crossing. We start off with an empty island and need to build it up to 5 stars, by cleaning it up, building things and inviting guests. Our first job is to clean up all the rubbish in the main area, before we're interrupted by the pirate crew, the Washbucklers. There is a narrative here, but it's very simple. We want the island to be nice and clean, but the bad guys keep messing it up. The combat is very simple too. We just push square to attack and R2 to dodge, but we can only get hit so many times. So we need to get the island to 5 stars. To do that, we're going to have to complete different requirements to get to the next star. Usually, each level needs us to reach the satisfaction and popularity rank, and also clear out some areas. The game starts off with a very generous tutorial so you don't get overwhelmed by all the new mechanics. First we learned how to get materials, you just need to smash stuff, and then you can craft those materials into new furniture. And placing objects will increase the island satisfaction. Simple. Just like in Animal Crossing, we have a bug net to catch all kinds of creatures, and some daily tasks to give us some objectives to do, like crafting and placing more objects. So the satisfaction is raised by placing objects, and popularity is raised by collecting things. So you can see as we pick up shells and catch bugs, our popularity keeps going up. And of course, it wouldn't be a life sim game without fishing. You hold R2 to charge the harpoon and then let go to hit the fish, and the bigger fish have more health. At this point, I wasn't sure if I should sell things or not in case there was something similar to the museum in Animal Crossing, but by talking to Gachapon we had finished all our dailies for the day, and I found out the game has a huge list of long-term challenges which will get you Doko Bucks, which is the currency here. To clear out an area, you need to spend your Doko Bucks and get the team to work on it, but the more you clean it up yourself, the cheaper it will be. So you can see the grade to the area starts as an F, but if we clear out this rubbish it will go down to an E. But there's only a set amount of rubbish per day, so we'll need to come back tomorrow to get it even lower. I'd finished all my dailies now, so I spent the rest of day 1 by catching bugs and fishing until the game called me back, and we got our own house. Thankfully, we don't need to pay Tom Nook the mortgage on this one. The house isn't looking great, but the more furniture we put in here, the higher our max HP will go, which will be useful for the tougher fights later on. And as long as it's nighttime, you can progress to the next day. Just in case you were worried, this isn't a game you play daily, each in-game day is about 10 minutes of real time. So we started off day 2 by clearing our inventory and clearing out the new areas. You can see here that at an F, the entrance will cost 30k, but at an E it will be 27k. So it's not a huge saving, but later on the 10% decrease will make a huge difference. I realised we also need to level up our crafting, so I spent my materials and made some new things. I gave up waiting for the museum that would never come, and sold all of my bugs so I could afford to upgrade the bat, which swings faster, which allows me to get more materials and clear out areas faster. I'd finished my dailies and did everything I could, but like I said, you can't skip forward unless it's actually nighttime. So I spent some more time crafting before finally going to bed. And on day 3 we got the chance to leave Dondoko Island and go back to the main game, but I was already hooked, so we're staying until I finish it. So we spent the next day clearing out areas, hitting the popularity rank by catching bugs, and hitting the satisfaction rank by placing buildings. If you're looking for something nice, just so you know, this will not be an aesthetic island. We now had enough money to clear out the first area, which gives us more space to place more objects, and spent the next day clearing out the other area. You might have noticed that by clearing out areas we've been gathering the resources, but now the rubbish piles are gone. So once you've fully cleared an area, you can come to the recycling area and get all the resources that you would have been able to gather. We now had enough money to clear out the second area, and we're now eligible for our first star. We got our requirements for the second star and got a ton of money to use in the actual game, so this basically cemented the fact I was going to stay on the island until I'd finished it to get as much money as I could. So to get to the second star, it's very similar, keep building and catching things, and we've unlocked 2 new areas to clear out. There's also new specific bugs and fish that only appear in the new areas. And we're now at the point where we can invite guests to the island. so we bought tents and set up the lovely accommodations. Before bed, we upgraded our house a bit by recreating Satire setup, and in the morning we got our first guests. We can only choose from 4 at the moment, but it doesn't matter because we can only fit 3 in the tent. Each guest will spend a certain amount of money and have certain things that make them happy, so it was easy to pick which 3 we wanted. To keep the guests happy, all we need to do is to wave at them every day and give them a gift. That's it. They also passively interact with any objects you've placed, as long as that object is next to a path. So anything that says available for guest leisure, we place on the path, and then we put everything else somewhere else. Like I said, this island will not look good at the end. The guests will accept any old item as their gift, but they would much prefer to get a souvenir. First, we need to spend some money to unlock the recipes, and then craft each souvenir using our materials. I basically just made sure I kept crafting these souvenirs, and kept them in my inventory for each morning. Guests only stay for 3 days, and when they leave, depending on how happy you've made them, you get a huge money boost. And then the cycle just continues. We can now invite more people to stay, slowly unlocking more guests who will pay more money, but it will be harder to keep them happy. We had now got the hills area down to an S rank, so we could clear it out for the cheapest price and get our 2nd star. And again, we got our new requirements and got a lot of money for our work. We then unlocked Dondoko Farm, which is where the game skyrockets in terms of money. So in Dondoko Farm, you can ask your Sujimon to make money passively, and then explain what Sujimon actually are in a minute. You can also place some Sujimon on me here and level them up, and you can get them to farm crops for you and gather materials. However, the amazing thing about Dondoko Farm is they basically just throw bugs, fish and resources at you here. I'm not sure if this is meant to be a reference to the Spider Islands in Animal Crossing, but it's very similar. There were actually so many mushrooms here that I ran out of space, and even after clearing our inventory, I had no space for these minerals. It's wild how good this is. By selling all of our new items, we can now afford to unlock a bridge on the mainland, and completed a small fight to unlock the lake area, which again has more exclusive bugs and fish. And we also had enough money to buy another bridge just after that. However, to unlock this area, we need to clear it out like usual. So we got another batch of guests, and I decided it was now time to optimise the farm. So you need to assign Sujimon to different jobs here, but I just don't have enough. The main game basically has its own Pokemon style minigame, which I hadn't touched yet, so we went back to the mainland and opened some packs. It didn't actually matter if we got any good Sujimon, we just needed a lot of them, and a few of each type. So you'll notice here, the more light type Sujimon we have making money, the higher chance we'll get a boost to how much money we actually make. And it works the same for the recycling centre and the farm. And because there's just so much to do here, we spent the rest of the day fishing and smashing stuff before we got called back to sleep. We got our new guests and had built even more houses so we could get even more people to stay at the one time. Of course, we had to make sure we kept everyone happy, and we kept doing this until eventually we unlocked our 3rd star. We started out in our quest for the 4th star, having already met our popularity requirement, which was quite cool, but at this point we actually had more space on the island than people who actually wanted to come here. So we created an advert, and after 6 hours here, we finally got our first trophy. But they started to come fast, because after crafting our 100th item, we got another trophy. We could now have 14 people on the island at once. And we cleared out the final area of the game to get 4 stars and the next trophy. The final thing left to do to complete this mode was to defeat the washbucklers once and for all in a huge fight on the beach. After we did this, we had perfected the island and got our 5th and final star. You might think we're done here, but we've got 1 trophy left for having 100 guests on the island total, and 8 hours into the mode, we're at 37. So annoyingly, you do just need to grind this out. I bought 5 of the biggest houses, so we could hold 25 people at the one time, and continue to put out adverts to get more potential guests, so we actually could have 25 at the one time. And then we just had to wait for everyone to leave, so we could get more people in, wait for them to leave, get more people in, wait for them to leave, until we finally get the trophy. Thankfully, you don't actually need to keep everyone happy here. You can just leave the game on and come back every 10 minutes to go to the next day. So we repeated this over and over again until we finally got our trophy and left Dondoko Island. But I knew we wouldn't be coming back here, so first I sold everything in my inventory to get as much money as I could, and then converted the Doko bucks into real dollars which I could use in the game. Make sure to subscribe to see what happens next and watch me get the platinum in the full game. Hopefully the video should be out in the next week.